The former Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney, has died. Brian Mulroney was a Conservative Prime Minister who led Canada from 1984 until 1993. And for a lot of Canadians under the age of 35, you might actually not really remember his name because Canadians don't really do a good job of talking about our past Prime Ministers. They just kind of move out of the limelight. So for some of you, hearing the last name Mulroney might actually make you think of his son, Ben Mulroney, who was the host of Canadian Idol, or his daughter, who is currently an MPP in Doug Ford's government. That being said, Brian Mulroney was an extremely influential part of Canada's recent history. And while I'm not one of those people who thinks that all of those who have passed deserve reverence, even though I disagree with a lot of what Brian Mulroney did as Prime Minister, I still think that he truly believed that he was doing what was in the best interest of Canada. He actually introduced the GST, which is something that would be unthinkable now for a Conservative politician, because Brian Mulroney is, in my opinion, the last real Conservative. Brian Mulroney was also arguably Canada's first environmentalist Prime Minister, at least by 1980s standards. He also negotiated the precursor to NAFTA, the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement. Alongside of those accomplishments, he also privatized about 1/3 of Canada's crown corporations. This includes Petro-Canada and Air Canada, which I would argue is the worst decision that he made during his time as Prime Minister. But Brian Mulroney was a powerful speaker and somebody who you could trust when he believed in something. And his electoral success was simultaneously some of the best and worst in Canadian history. In his first election, he won one of the largest landslides in Canadian history with 75% of all seats. But by the end of his 9 years, he was so disliked that he stepped down from the party and Kim Campbell took over. Because of the damage that he did to the Conservative Party and the brand, at that point in time, the Conservative Party collapsed, getting only 2 seats in that following election. And while many blame that loss on Kim Campbell and the rise of the Reform Party, it's hard to remove that from his political legacy. And in recent years, Brian Mulroney has also spoken fondly and positively of Justin Trudeau while distancing himself from Pierre Poilievre. Once again, why I say that he is the last real Conservative. Because once he left and the party collapsed, it didn't really come back until after the Harper merger, and even with that, they weren't real Conservatives, at least the way that Canadians had historically been used to them. Brian Mulroney was a complex and successful man, somebody who spoke with conviction and somebody who many people believed in. At many times, he was a voice of reason when there was none to be heard. He was a conservative, an environmentalist, a father, a grandfather, a great speaker, a businessman, and a Canadian Prime Minister, somebody who shaped our future in the current world that we live in today. Don't simply respect him because he's dead and because he was a Prime Minister. Respect him because of the person he was and because of what he accomplished.